Hi, I'm Hannah from 21st Century KY, and I am back to talk about that four-letter word, P-L-A-Y, play, and its place in the kindergarten classroom. And I'm here to say we've got to bring it back and do away with that negative connotation that it may have among some of our administrators sometimes, and make sure that our play is 21st century ready, is focused on standards, and is an ultimate learning opportunity for our students. If you missed my last blog post, be sure and check it out. It was all about the pros and cons of play in the kindergarten day and a little bit about the research that I did about play in the kindergarten classroom. So be sure to check it out to get the background. Now for the good stuff. This blog post is linked up to an exclusive freebie. Be sure to check it out. It is a planner to help you plan structured and choreographed play experiences for your kindergarten students throughout the school year. There are two versions. One is mine, where I fill the form out just like I'm my regular self-teacher, and with the topics and the resources that I used. You are welcome to use that, to go off of that to build your own. But there's also a blank version where you can create your own set of themes and topics for structured play throughout your school year. So let's talk a little about what's going to be on that form and how I went about planning for play in my classroom. When I think about kindergarten curriculum, I really think in terms of theme. It's my favorite way to plan. I love to make connections and see those connections woven through my entire curriculum, and I really think it helps kids learn at a deeper level when we weave those common themes throughout our learning, when we integrate all the academic subject areas of learning, and when we include social and behavioral and kinesthetic and experiential learning as part of it as well. I think that kids just learn best that way. I would learn best that way. So I'm sure that it's beneficial for my young students. So when I think about those themes and I think about what I'm teaching every month of the year, I decided to plan what play opportunities would be available. This means that I don't have all my toys and all my play opportunities out all year long. And they're not even on a rotation. Some things that are out at the beginning of the year may never come out again if they are developmentally beyond needing to play with that. So it really takes a lot of thought. It takes a good inventory of what you already have in your classroom. So I encourage you to make an inventory of what you have at your disposal at school or at home, or if you have any budget funding for things that you might be able to purchase that would make a difference throughout the school year for you. In the beginning of the year, my play is less about what they're playing with and more about learning about play. So my theme for August is just learning their place in our classroom. Our overarching theme for our academic learning is family, and so we just talk about how in our classroom we're a family, and those are all the things that most people do to create that climate and culture in their classroom at the beginning of the year. So the play opportunities I provide in August are just pretty generic play centers. The housekeeping center, blocks and Legos, Play-Doh or other artistic things that they might choose to play with, the computers. There's always a place where they can draw or write, look at books. Really what I'm wanting them to learn through their play in the first month of school is their place. And that's what kindergartners need to learn about anyway in the beginning. They're coming out of that very egocentric, side-by-side type play in their growth and development, and they're realizing that there are more people around them and how they act affects those people. And so that's a really important thing to just get right out in the open from the very beginning in kindergarten, and it benefits me for the whole rest of the school year. So our academic learning is all about families. We're reading stories about families. We're creating math problems about families. We're learning the rules of school and how we treat each other at school, and how at school we're like a family. We're learning that kids have different roles in different places. How things are at home aren't the way things are at school, and they have a role as a son, a daughter, a grandson, a granddaughter, a brother, a sister, a cousin, and a classmate, and that student-teacher relationship. So they're learning about all of those things through our academic learning, and then through their play, we're setting up those guidelines for how to interact and how to share and how to just sort of exist. What is appropriate play? You know, we don't use our recess voice. It's not recess play, but sort of that modeling and promoting the proper kind of play together. That's what we do in August. The theme is family. So when I got that out of the way and I thought that's how we're going to spend the beginning of our school year, I really started to think about my goals for play and how I was going to tie in the standards, and then what stuff I actually had and could get my hands on. So those are kind of the three columns on your planning sheet. One is just the theme and a description of that theme. Two is what standards is this going to relate to? How am I going to relate this back to academic learning? If my principal comes in and it looks like my kids are having a free-for-all, how do I answer to that? If you think about that ahead of time, your kids will have a much better learning experience when they're actually getting to play. Third, I think about my resources and what I have or can get my hands on for them to experience what I want them to experience through this theme or topic in these play centers. And then fourth, what is my ultimate goal for play? You know, if we take August as an example, my description would be family, and they're learning their place in their family. My standards would be that they're learning about speaking and listening and turn taking. They're learning personal skills like getting along with others, following the rules, taking turns. Lots of those underlying skills that kindergartners need to have in place in order to have success in academics. And we're fooling ourselves if we think they don't need that, because after all, even in 2016, a 5-year-old is still a 5-year-old. And in fact, we have 5-year-olds with the world at their disposal. So we have an even bigger responsibility as kindergarten teachers today, in my humble opinion. And then that third column would be my resources. So I think about what I have. I've got my kitchen, I've got the baby dolls, I've got just regular old blocks and Legos, I've got my student computers. We do a lot with Play-Doh at the very beginning of the school year to build fine motor, and it's something I'm going to teach them how to play with in a large group setting first, and how we take care of our Play-Doh and clean up messes, so they should be able to play with that. So I just think through what I have and what I'm going to use, and then I think about my ultimate goal for their play experience, and that goal would be for them to begin to learn how their actions influence others and affect others, to learn their role within our classroom, to make friends, and to be able to relate their personal experiences to their experience in the classroom. And most of their personal experiences revolve around family. So that's an easy thing for them to connect. So you can see how I thought through that first month. So now a quick overview of all the months, and then you'll have to come back for future blog posts about the rest of the topics and see exactly how my kids enjoyed the play centers for the rest of the school year. But the rest of the overview goes like this. September was the restaurant theme. Not a far deviation from the family theme, but it involved a little bit more than just sort of regular old play. In October, we did a really fun and technology-charged news theme. In November, our theme was about travel. I intended it to kind of relate to the pilgrims traveling here and the Native Americans and how we might travel to grandmother's house for Thanksgiving. But my kids, you'll see, took it to a whole new level that even I wasn't anticipating. In December, we chose to cover the topic of gingerbread houses, but in a really grandiose way. We covered some engineering and science standards through our academic learning, and my kids decorated and built a child-sized gingerbread house out of boxes as part of their play center, along with some other activities. In January, we had another focus on science, and we sort of took some of those engineering things we learned about in December to the next level, and we talked about force and motion and pulled lots of new and different toys out. We were coming back from Christmas, and kindergartners after Christmas are ready to learn, and a lot of times they've matured and they're reaching some milestones in their learning and ready to push beyond that. And so we had a lot of fun, especially the boys, bringing that in January. In February, our thing was post office for the obvious reason with Valentine's Day. But we did a whole lot more with that and included some ELA standards and focuses with speech and language, and also with writing and communicating. In March, we focused on the creative arts and had all kinds of artistic opportunities. Some instruments, they could make their own instruments, some art projects where the sky was the limit, some technology creation or media art creation, as well as some three-dimensional stuff. And in April was my students' very favorite, and that was the veterinarian clinic. And we got out all kinds of stuff for playing vets and lots of stuffed animals, and they had a great time with that. And then we culminated the year in May with a pizza parlor, and that really brought all of our play full circle as we came back to what we started with the restaurant. Only it was amazing to see the development of my students and how their play in May was so much more sophisticated and so much more enriched than their play had been in September. And that's when I was sold that providing specific, structured play, open-ended play opportunities for my kids was the absolute best thing I ever included in my kindergarten schedule. And I found that with some standards-based play and with some integrating of lots of subject areas, my kids achieved at higher levels, learned at deeper levels, and I had the best teaching experience I've had in my entire career, and by far the best standardized academics test scores at the end of the year. So if everybody wins and everybody's happy, it must be the best way to go. Stay tuned for some more posts about all the different ways that I incorporate play throughout the school year, and be sure to check out the freebie and start planning your own play centers. Comment below and let me know if you come up with something new and about your experiences with play in your kindergarten classroom. Thanks a lot.